It may be surprising to you just how much your childhood has an impact on how you feel and operate in your marriage today. There are a lot of reasons why, whenever I tell my clients that we are going to spend time looking back on their childhood, that they are completely confused and unsure of why that even matters. And if you have experienced a really difficult or troubling childhood, it can feel like an area of your life that you're just not that interested in diving back into. But here's the thing, your childhood, the way you were brought up, how your parents treated you, how you felt in your home growing up, has everything to do with the things that bother you the most now in your marriage. Our childhood relationships and the way that our parents interact with us forms the basis for how we understand who we are in relationship to each other. So, with that parental relationship, you learn who you are. You learn how to think about yourself. You learn how to think about others. You learn what is expected of you in relationships. You learn what to expect of others. It literally is the basis for your entire relational operating system. Just like a computer, it has a system that it is used to spewing out and operating under. So it is with us and our early childhood relationships, most often with our caregivers. So when you notice that you are bothered and triggered by things in your marriage or by specific things your partner does or doesn't do, I want you to take this as the opportunity to go inside, to look inside yourself and ask the question, where in my childhood did I feel this way? Now, whether you had parents who tried their best or parents who, in your mind, really failed you in a number of ways, all of us as children grow up with our needs being unmet perfectly. We are all imperfect humans. And so, for as much as your parents tried, or for as much as they couldn't try, it is important to know that you as a child developed and evolved with some important needs not being met fully. Now, this is not to blame, this is not to shame, this is not to throw anyone's parents under the bus. It is just the reality of how we are all brought up. Right? No one can meet your needs perfectly. And so there are times in your life that really left a mark on you, where maybe you didn't get the attention that you wanted, or maybe you didn't get the validation, the encouragement, the comfort, the support. Whatever it is, we all have a core set of relational needs. And when any one of those needs are not met fully for our growth and development, we develop a wound. I want you to think about if you got a scratch or if you, really skinned your knee. Even though the skin grows on top of it, it's still a tender place for you. So it is with our unmet needs. And all of us have those moments in childhood where our parents didn't say what we needed to hear or didn't treat us the way that we needed and sometimes deserved to be treated. So those wounds create what I call those tender spots for you. And what it looks like in your marriage are the things that you are most triggered by. So if you grew up in a home where you didn't feel prioritized, where you didn't feel like your needs mattered or that you got the attention that you would have liked, you probably developed what is called a prioritization wound, where it is very hard for you when you feel like you are not important. You get very emotional, whether that is aggressively reacting with lashing out at your partner and criticizing them for the things that they're doing, or you get shut down, where you just sort of like go off into your own corner and withdraw from the relationship. So you want to know, what are the things in my marriage that trigger me the most? What are the ways that I am feeling that are most difficult for me to deal with? And when you have that information and you can make the connection to, oh, this wound started in childhood, then you are able to filter out what is really happening in the marriage versus the wounding that you are carrying with you that makes you extra sensitive and extra triggered by this same dynamic. And so when you have this information, what it enables you to do is it enables you to actively respond as opposed to instantly reacting. Let me explain. When you are triggered by your partner, scrolling on their phone, working too much, spending time with other people, and you are feeling that you are not a priority, many times you can immediately react. You can criticize them, you can complain, you can start an argument, you can let them know in some way, shape, or form that you are unhappy with what they are doing and that they are in the wrong. That path of behavior, as you've probably seen, creates a lot of conflict. Maybe your partner is defensive, or maybe they feel like you're criticizing them all the time. So then they shut down and they withdraw, which leads to more disconnection, which leads you to feel less of a priority. And so when you continue on this path, what eventually happens is your relationship begins to erode, but you don't really have the root cause and the full understanding for why that is happening. On the other hand, when you can recognize, hey, I am particularly sensitive to feeling like a priority because as a child, I didn't get all of the attention that I wanted. And you can have that intentional and vulnerable conversation with your partner. You are not blaming them. You are not criticizing them. In fact, what you're doing is you're opening your heart up for them to be able to build a heart-to-heart connection with you. And when you have this information, when you know yourself and you know your unmet needs and you know your wounding and you know your very specific triggers, how you and your partner begin to address these things completely changes. It is no longer a them against you, them not giving you what you need versus you feeling like you're begging for the time and attention that you desire. But it becomes something that you can have a vulnerable and collaborative conversation about because they are no longer on the defensive. They see and they're able to connect the dots with you. And instead of feeling attacked by you, they can understand you. This is the kind of information that is so important. And I have so many couples that come to me feeling misunderstood in their marriage. And so if this is your experience, part of the way that you are going to bridge the gap and create that connection and that understanding and ultimately be able to respond to each other in productive and helpful ways, having this information for how your childhood has shaped you and the way that you operate and feel in your marriage is so important. If this information has been valuable for you, if it has resonated with you, if you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think of it this way, I am so glad that you have found this video. And I want to also let you know that I talk about this topic more in depth in my podcast. I have an entire 2-part episode series all about your childhood and your marriage. It will help you connect the dots between what are those unmet needs, what are those woundings, and how does it connect to the triggers that you are currently experiencing in your marriage. If you would like to dive deeper into this conversation with me, I invite you to hop over to the Love Marriage Again podcast with Dr. Chavonne. I would love to meet you there in that episode. I will also link to it right here with this video. But I really just want to encourage you to not be afraid to take a look back at your childhood. It does not mean that you have to stay stuck there. It does not mean that you're rehashing all these old wounds with no point. But you can use that information as data to help you understand yourself and then to help you explain what you are experiencing and feeling in your marriage in a way that your partner can truly receive and understand.